Castro, Episode 6, Triple G, Sergeant Major George G. Garcia III, my personal favorite, 89.99. Admin note, please support the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation. Since 1962, awarding need-based scholarships to military children. Last year alone, they gave away $7.2 million. Disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed on Top Game Podcast are those of the producers and or the guests appearing on the program and do not reflect the views and opinions of the United States Marine Corps or the Department of Defense. Thanks for tuning in. Hewlett Packards and whatnot, and finally I just said fuck it, and I bought a MacBook Pro, and I had that MacBook Pro, bought it in 2008, and I just got rid of it, and this is the replacement.
Another MacBook?
Yeah, another MacBook Pro, 2018. So, and you could safely say that I'm all in on Mac, but the shit just works.
Mm-hmm.
But
smooth.
Yeah.
Rarely does it have glitches.
You're rocking an iPhone now too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I noticed when I was texting you that it came up blue instead of green. It's like, one of us. Yes. One of us. So, I want to say thanks for agreeing to sit down. I honestly didn't think that you would tell me no, but I would understand if you had some reservations, and as such, I think it's fair to ask you right now: is there anything that's off limits that you don't want to touch?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, so Sergeant Major George Garcia III. How's that feel to hear me say that to you, right?
It feels good. It really does. I didn't think I was going to be Sergeant Major. Right? I mean, I was a young kid, and we went to DLI. We got there, and I was like 19 years old, man. And you were, what, like 23?
I was 23.
But you were like, you knew the ways of the world already. I didn't, and I'm still learning.
I thought I did.
it was... So never did I think it was going to be Sergeant Major.
Right.
And it's good to hear. Very good to hear.
So what's it mean, when you go out to formation and you get the first sergeant scurrying around,
Yeah. To me, it means that, one, I don't have to do the first sergeant's job anymore, right? So to me, that's nice, and to develop the first sergeants to do their thing, which should not be just screaming about haircuts and cigarette butts, right? It should be.
It's funny you say that, because just recently I was at Radbin for 2 weeks, right? And so after the first week, they kind of start to let their hair down, because I'm meth and everything's all methed up, and so I'm a hostile yet known entity,
right?
But after week 1, week 2 starts to creep in, and I get to see them in their full glory, and so two master sergeants start to go at it. Right, and then one of the senior gunnies that was selected for master sergeant, and I'm not dropping any names here, so I can give him some plausible deniability. After the fact, he tells the other guys, and he tells me too. He's like, if the master sergeants are arguing about the fucking head, what are the first sergeants arguing about? What are they doing? Who's doing their job? And,
right.
And I just died laughing, because it's a valid point, and so. What does the first sergeant need to be doing?
So what I tell my first sergeants is, we don't have gear to work on in PM, right? Like the other MOSs do. Our gear are the Marines, right?
So you're assuming that I know everything about COB4.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. A good point. Great point. So COB4 is a direct support logistics battalion. We have motor team Marines, operators, and maintenance Marines. We have engineers, combat engineers. We have utilities, everything from electricians to water purification guys, or Marines. We have landing support Marines. So our capabilities are pretty, they run the gamut of what we can support to 4th Marines. And, the Marine Corps is all about supporting that infantry battalion. So we have capabilities to support them. So, for instance, one of those capabilities is the motor T, right? So we have guys who drive their trucks. They perform their PMC, their PMs on the trucks, preventive maintenance on their trucks to make sure their gear is good so they can operate it. Then we have the mechanics who maintain that gear when it gets broken. So what I remind my first sergeants is, we don't have gear. We don't own gear. Our gear are the Marines. So we are talking to the Marines about. We're talking to the first sergeants about what makes that Marine ready to go to the field. What makes that Marine ready to perform his or her job while on deployment in an austere environment, providing the support that the infantry battalion Marine needs. So that's what I tell them to look for. So yes, maintain the standards. Yes, make sure Marines are getting their haircuts. Make sure that their uniform looks squared away, and they're maintaining the standards. But further than that, make sure that they are capable of doing their job and capable of conducting themselves after they do their job, when they come back and their job is done. Are they resilient? Are they able to handle some of the stresses that they saw? We're not the first sergeants are not the end all be all, but they're the ones that are supposed to be looking at their Marines and seeing, is that Marine okay? Or do I need to start looking for help for that Marine? So that's what I tell them to do.
Okay. Do you ever miss the SIGINT game?
I do, and I miss it more when I come around you or when I see other Marines from the SgtMaj Field. When I was at SgtMaj and I was hanging around with Tom Boyd and John Scoggins, and just to hear some of the things they talk about, I was like, man. And then the names they talk about, like, I remember him, or I remember her. I do miss it. I do miss it a lot. And essentially going to an 89-99, it was my lap move, right?
Right.
But so I miss it. I always hold a little place in my heart for the SIGINTers, and then by extension the Intel Marines. So I have two corporals.
Okay.
And I keep telling them all the time, hey, I know people. If you need some help going with some SIGINT, if you need help learning about SIGINT, I know people there. Just trying to get them out of their box.
Right.
At the battalion, you don't have as many resources.
Yeah. So what do you got? O231s?
I do, yes.
Okay.
And we just got a O2 officer, O202.
All right. Yeah, the Future Force 2025 has the game shaken up a little bit. Unique occupational fields are going to not so normal or customary historically units. Mm-hmm. And the question that I've been getting quite often is, what do I do with them? Right.
Right.
So we're working through that, and I think a lot of it was that the planning that went into that as they were establishing that new structure it was not clearly communicated to the gaining units. But it's one of those things that if you build it, they'll come.
Yeah.
And once they arrive, then we'll get them engaged and pointed in the right direction. And if not, then we adjust and we pull those bodies back and place them elsewhere. And I think that'll be something that I find myself involved in more often than not. Yeah. So
I like that they're asking, what do I do with them? Right. Because then they're asking you can make recommendations, you can make it better, and then it shows that they care. Yeah. They're not just letting them be mess duty or something.
Right. Skip guard.
Right.
SSO. So you joined when you were 19. What made you join?
I had always wanted to be a Marine. Right?
Always.
So I say that because I remember in 5th grade, when the recruiters come through,
Right.
that's what happened, man.
5th grade?
5th grade, a recruiter comes in.
Who's a recruiter going to recruit in the 5th grade at elementary school?
He came to, I remember I was in Miss Acevedo's class.
Okay.
And he comes in and he talks, and man, I was like, wow, he talks so good. I couldn't tell you now what he said. All I know is like, wow.
It made an impression.
It made a huge impression in my mind. And I went home that day and told my mom I was going to be a Marine. And I think I broke her heart right away. And she did not want me to join. So fast forward down to high school. My senior year, I enlist, and then I go.
So you were in the depth for...
So I enlisted during high school, and then I was in the depth for probably about 6 months. I wasn't supposed to ship to boot camp till the following April.
Okay.
Man, you know how they project out?
Right.
And I told the recruiter I'd like to go sooner rather than later. I didn't want to spend all that time. I was ready to go, basically. And I had originally signed up for security forces. And he calls me and says, hey, you can leave early. It's tomorrow. You got to leave tomorrow. And if you leave tomorrow, I have to change your MOS. And I was like, well, so what? And he says, it's a cryptologic linguist. I said, what's that? He's like,
I don't know.
It's like, oh, it's real cool. You get a top secret clearance and real cool stuff. And I mean, all he had to say was top secret clearance. And I was like, I'm on board. I'm game.
I'm all in.
I'm all in. I'm all in. And then, as you know, which others might not know, we didn't find out the specifics of that until we got to our first actual school. So
you don't even get the specifics there. You just your language acquisition.
Right. That's exactly it. And then they pick the language for you too. So.
Yeah. So I initially had orders for Arabic because they at that point in time they were printing it on your orders.
Yeah.
So the Arabic linguist, I was like, I'm gonna be an Arabic linguist. And then we get there, and of course the game was different. I remember Major Sparks had us taking that Sparrowhawk test and to determine your learning style, and then they used that combined with what was really as I understand it now, the determining factor was what school seats are available, right? Or at least that was my impression. And hey, we got 3 bodies, nuts to butts, get in here. We got so you 3 get in here, and then okay, we got 3 more bodies going to Russian, and then you got 2 bodies going to Korean, and Castro. You speak Spanish? Nope. Why not? Because I just didn't grow up speaking it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's where I found myself. But Arabic must have been hard.
It was. It was. Well, I mean, it was hard for me. It wasn't very easy. Some people I felt flew through it really good. Some people didn't. I felt like I kept above water, but I was studying constantly. And it was a long school.
Yeah. So about a year and a half.
Yeah, 63 weeks from day one to graduation day. It was 63 weeks. It was good.
Are you proficient now?
Now, not so much. I can still read and write it, and I can still listen to BBC Arabic or Al Jazeera, the clean MS Modern Standard Arabic. But ask me to talk to a native speaker, and I'm lost. A lot of hand signs are going.
Right. But you originally from, like me, Texas boy.
Right.
From Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi, and right outside Corpus Christi is a town called Portland, and that's where I went to. That's where I grew up.
So you didn't grow up on Corpus Christi?
Mm-mm. I was born in Corpus Christi, and then we moved when I was real young.
Okay.
So,
a lot of time in the water growing up?
Yeah, a lot of time at the beach, crabbing, saltwater fishing. I'd never fished in a fresh lake until I got to Fort Meade, 2008.
Okay. Red snapper, speckled trout,
right?
Flounder,
right?
All that good stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Galveston's not too different. I'm sure you're aware. So you and I split ways because you got orders out. I had to remain behind because of some transgressions as a civilian prior to joining the Marine Corps. Finally worked that out. So I followed in Trace, and she went through DLI,
DLI good fellow, and then you got to 2nd Radio Battalion.
Yep.
And initially, what was your experience when you first checked in the battalion?
When I first checked in the battalion, it was a positive experience, and I say that in that there were other Marines there, lance corporals, sergeants, who immediately accepted me at 2nd Radio Battalion and started showing me the way. And
Who?
So I remember a Corporal Brown. We used to call him Booney. He helped just accept me right in. There was a Lance Corporal Nate Sample.
I don't remember Sample.
Yeah, he had been there for a while. And he accepted me right in.
He's a Spanling.
Right. Kevin Barda. He was a sergeant at the time.
Okay.
And
he's still around.
Yep. He actually made probably the biggest difference professionally for me.
Really?
Than anybody else. And I didn't even think until right this second. I didn't even think about it.
He's a master of guns now.
But I would tell you what he did. He looked at me. We're both short. It's all right. He's probably a little taller than me. Not many people are shorter than me.
It's my understanding he's in the good fellow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. So he looks at me. He's like, "Hey, you're short. You could fit in a Muse vehicle. You want to go to Muse platoon?" And I was like, "Yes."
We're full of dwarves.
Yeah. And that's how I got in a Muse platoon. Yeah.
So why didn't you go radio recon?
So I went and I did the RIP with I did part of the RIP. I had checked in and they were starting a RIP immediately, and so I jumped on it. Yeah, let me try this. I was not in shape for it, and I think we did the run with the pack, and then we did the O course a couple times, and I couldn't complete the O course the 3rd time, and my arms were shot, my legs were shot, I was cramping, and they're like, "Well, if you can't finish this one, you can't stay. You can drop and you can train and come back to do the RIP later." I said, "Okay, fine." So I dropped, and then I ended up going from RP, I went to the SSP, and I was there for maybe a week when Kevin Barda
snatched you up and took you to the Muse.
So I didn't even try again for radio reconnaissance. I was brought into the Muse platoon, and I started running with that. So when when I got inside the LAV for the first time, I was like, man, my eyes were big. I was amazed that we could get into these things and drive them, and shortly after they signed me up to go to the crewman's course.
For those that don't know, what's a Muse vehicle?
Oh, and so a Muse vehicle is an LAV, so a light armored vehicle. It is the signals intelligence variant of the LAV, the 8-wheeled light armored vehicle that the Marine Corps uses. So what that does is we will attach to anyone they need us to, but primarily we attach to a light armored reconnaissance unit and provide them
Wolfpack.
Yeah, we provide them their INW.
Wolfpack. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you ever float one of those things?
I have, yes. Yes. A couple of times.
It's almost like it defies the laws of physics.
It is scary. it is scary. A couple of times during the course, I floated one, and then we attempted to float there in Lejeune. We got one floated, and another one, the back door was warped, and we quickly found out that it was warped, and we did not float that one. Because you'll find out very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So you go through the training. You become what's the MOS for LAV?
So you become an LAV crewman, which is 0313. So when they take you to the training, they don't specifically teach you about the Muse variant. They run you through the LAV 25, which is the primary fighting vehicle that LAR uses, and then because you drive that, you can drive any of them.
Okay.
Right. So that's what they teach you on, and then go back to your parent command, and then you drive whatever variant is you're assigned to. So for me, I get back to Radio Battalion, and I drive the LAV Muse variant.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How did you end up on an SST with me in Iraq then?
It's a good question, right? So I did the first deployment on the 26 Mu as a Muse person, and then I don't know if you remember when we came back, I was pulled from Muse platoon because I was an Arabic linguist, and I was made.
Oh, that's right. They threw you guys all
on the watch floor,
it was like a Arling sweatshop.
Yep. And when our battalion deployment to Iraq kicked off, I was originally told, "Hey, yeah, you won't lose your spot as a team leader, but we need you on the watch floor." So that was not the case, because I remember speaking to Captain Riffer at the time, and they told me, "Hey, Captain Riffer is going to be the one who's going to make the call because it's his company going out." And I talked to him, and he said, "Well, so if you had your druthers, you'd want to be a Muse team leader." I told him yes, and he was very honest. He's like, "Well, I can't use you as a Muse team leader now because I have a full team, but I still need a linguist, and I still need you to go." And I'm not going to say no. I'm just going on deployment, get to use the MOS or the language again in real world. I just did what the Marine Corps asked me.
Right.
I bitched about it a whole lot to my wife Laura, and Laura.
But who did you tell in the leadership? I mean, young sergeant. You were a sergeant at the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, young sergeant. Who do you go to?
I didn't have any. So I had. I don't know if you know Mike Cochran.
Mm-hmm.
He was there. I did talk to Staff Sergeant Cochran at the time.
Yep.
And he said he took it higher, but there wasn't much they were going to do. If they would have put me in the who I think Nick Graff was one of them, and I don't remember who the other team leader was. There was two, and basically me going would have taken one of them out, and so I just go. I can still perform MOS. I can still go, and then I was going to be on your team, which I was for that. It sounds good to me
because we work well together.
Yeah.
So, truth to power. I bitched to Roper and First Sergeant Holler and Master Guns Hartman. Anybody that would listen. Who's the captain? Captain Russ? Captain Harris?
Captain Harris, yeah.
Yeah. I said, that Marine needs his own team. I want him. I'll take him. Because I had Brobst and Dorn.
Yep. Both strong linguists.
Yeah, both strong linguists. I can work with what I got, but that Marine needs his own team. And lo and behold, later on in deployment, some of those other TLs got shit canned for making some interesting decisions, kind of going off of the rails and questionable judgment. And you got the call up from the miners.
Yep, I sure did.
And so from there, I kind of lost track of you. I know you were hooking and jabbing, but somewhere down the road, when I rotated out, I caught wind that you had been meritoriously selected for promotion to staff sergeant in combat.
Mm-hmm. So,
what was that all about?
So, I don't know. So, when I got the call up, right, we had just come back from Fallujah, right? We were at a blocking position, and it was Rhodes, Corporal Rhodes, Nick Rhodes, Lamagna, and Lieutenant Zitnik.
Okay.
Right, so we're up there. We're doing what we got to do up there, and on the way back, we go through there's an IED that goes right between the LAV-25 in front of us and the Humvee we're driving, and the Humvee, the engine. I mean, it sounds like it's going to die. I thought it did die. I thought that was the end. As we go through the black cloud of smoke, I don't know how none of us got hurt, but none of us did. And then the engine just came to life. It's like God pushed it, and it came to life. And so we get back to TQ and Habanilla that
Right.
evening. We start turning everything in and debriefing. And a day or so, I think it's about a day later, that's when Nick Graff and Kyle Marks get hit by the mortar. Remember?
Yeah. Well, so I was part of the contact team that was designated to go link up with those guys in the case of anything going bad. And sure enough, it went bad.
So you remember? So I remember that they talked about, well, we need to get somebody out there. We need somebody who can drive.
Right.
And I remember telling you, what? They need somebody who can drive? I can drive. I'm all about that. I got my licenses right here. And so we get the go ahead. Okay, you need to get out there. So I take gear, and I start getting out there. So starting getting out there means I'm pretty much hitchhiking on my way back to Fallujah, going with whatever convoy or any unit that can take me out there.
Hitchhiking.
Pretty much, that's exactly how it was. That's exactly because I remember we went to one link-up point, and the Army guys who I was with, they're like, okay, they dropped out some barrels out the back and some looked like ammunition boxes, and they're like, okay, get out here and wait. I was right by the river, and it was close to dusk, and I remember thinking, I don't think this is such a smart idea, being out here by myself. It's close to dusk, outside the wire. I was like, y'all hang out. And they're like, no, we can't. Hell no, we're not hanging out here. And I was like, but you're going to leave me out here? And they're like, we got to go. Like, they were no shit going to leave.
Who are these guys?
2 Army guys that they took out some stuff and dropped it off. It was for a riverine link-up that they're supposed to get the gear or some resupply stuff.
Right.
And then me. So I was like, no, I'm not leaving here. Some bad feeling. So I'm not staying here. So we go back. I go right back into Currahee, where the headquarters are.
Right.
And the COC. And I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? They're like, oh, I'm glad you didn't stay because that riverine link-up got canceled. So I was like, well, yeah, thank you for letting me know. You know, something told me it was bad. But anyway, so I get on the next convoy out and we make our way, and I'm just, like I said, hitchhiking. It wasn't the days of solid manifests, right? It was the days of, hey, are you going this way? Yes. Put me on your manifest, and I want to go. So I end up getting to Fallujah. I take over the team there, and I wasn't taking over the team at the time. I was just going to go and get the comms back up, get the vehicle refueled, and bring them back.
Right.
So I started working all those in that order. Comm up, vehicle refueled and ready to go. We made sure it was drivable because the mortar hit not too far from it. No damage to the vehicle. It was good. It just was out of gas, and the Marines back didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
We got it all taken care of. And then we got on the convoy to come back. Prior to that convoy coming back, I get a call over the radio, and I want to say it was Captain Harris, saying, congratulations, Colonel Pollock says it's your team. And I remember thinking, God damn, it's awesome. I was excited. Stoked.
Yeah.
So I feel like the team did not, I say the team because it wasn't just me, right? I feel like the team did not stop. We kept going. We kept supporting mission after mission. We kept attaching to different units. We'd come back solely to refit, refuel, resupply, and then punch out again. I think we hit just about every major operation with the exception of the very last one before we came back from our deployment. So during the course of that, I remember coming in and I'd debrief. I would turn in everything. We'd make sure the vehicle's good to go and all that. And I would tell Master Sergeant Hartman what was going on. And at one point, Master Sergeant Hartman said, "Hey, I want to put you up for the Meritorious Staff Sergeant." I said, "Sounds good. I don't know what you need from me." And he tells me, "I need everything that you guys have been doing, dates. Just tell me what you got." So I give him my background. I tell him everything that we've been doing at the time.
So everything's in your team log, right?
And everything's in my team log. So it was very easy to come up with all our stats.
George, it's with much regret that I have to say that it's almost a lost art right now.
Damn.
But there's a silver lining, and we've got some solid dudes out at least at 3rd Radio Battalion that are getting things going in the right direction. But part of it is because in this theater and in our RADBIN, they don't train and fight like the way in which we trained and fought when we were at 2nd, America's RADBIN. Right? I don't know, maybe some people get pissed to hear me say that, but they're fixing it. Now, I will say that the radio reconnaissance platoon, their shit was tight.
Nice.
And you know, when you got guys like Sonny and Nick Watson and whatnot, they're on point. But you know, unfortunately, it wasn't as prevalent as I would have liked to have seen when I was back there a little over a year ago. But they're moving in the right direction. So they're coming back online.
Nice.
At least with that aspect of operations. So he takes all your information because you dutifully recorded it if it's like a duty logbook, right?
Right, exactly.
And so you hand it to Master Guns Hartman or Master Sergeant Hartman.
Yep. So I hand it to Master Hartman. We take the photo, in utilities, boots and utes, and he takes it from there. He put input on it. Let's say Major Shulgren had input on it. There's another lieutenant at the time. I cannot remember his name right now, but I know he also put input on it. But they probably all could write very well, and because I just gave them, this is my timeline. This is who I am. Right. And they did the rest, really. And then it just competed. And I didn't think, it's to staff sergeant. I thought it's really cool that they're recognizing me. Right. And that's where it will end, you know. So we go on about our business. We keep doing our stuff. We come back in after another mission. We're refitting everything. Hey, you won this level of the board, it's going to go up to the next one. Okay, sounds good. And it kept going that way. And I think how I found out was we were supporting another mission. I think it was right outside Karma. And I would, you know how you have the chat. You can chat back to the COC and everything. Right. I could always chat back. And as a team leader, you could touch anybody. Yeah. You can talk directly to the CO, Major Shulgren. You can touch anybody you want, and I consistently utilize that. So one time I get a chat saying you need to call Major Shulgren now, right? I think he was captain. I was like, what? So I'm texting him. I'm right here. They're like, no, you need to call him right now. And I'm thinking the worst. Something happened to my wife Laura or my son Anthony, right? Right. That's the only reason why this officer would want me to call him instead of chatting. Yeah. And as a father and a husband, you immediately start going into worst case scenario. Right. I'm freaking out. So I grabbed the Iridium, and of course, almost a completely reliable piece of gear. Right. This is the time where it keeps cutting out. Of course. What the heck? My heart's racing. I finally get through, and he says, hey, Staff Sergeant Garcia, how you doing? Didn't even click. how's it going, sir? Is everything okay? What can I do? He's like, you didn't hear me. No, sir. How's it going? I said, Staff Sergeant Garcia, how you doing? And I was like, I'm a sergeant. He's like, you're not going to be. You're going to be a staff sergeant. And from there, that's when I found out.
Okay.
I was very excited. But talk about like a roller coaster, man. We were doing good. Mission was doing good. Then I get the news, or what I think is perceived bad news, and then good news again. So that's how it happened.
Awesome.
So that's how that happened, where I won the board, and the conduct of the board, I don't know. I wasn't present for the final pieces. Like I said, I kept coming back, and they would give me updates on where it was at.
Right. So around that time frame, I had already rotated out because I was just coming off of, that was my third almost consecutive deployment, because I went to Bolivia, came back, went to Haiti, came back, and then went to Iraq. And I think by that time, I want to say it was Master Guns Owen. Maybe it might have been Master Sergeant Hartman or somebody else, First Sergeant Holder. I don't know, but there was some input, I think, at the senior enlisted level that said it was time for Castro to go back home. And they asked, do you want to stay out longer? And I said, you know what, I've been gone long enough. I had the, I guess, maturity and presence of mind to say, I'm ready to rotate back, and this team can stay and fight in this hole without me. And it ended up being Maroon that took over when I departed. It took a little bit longer to get me out than I initially anticipated, but when I finally got back home, and I wanted to share this with you, and I can't remember if I told you the story or not, but you lived in that house right behind mine.
On Windsor Court?
Yeah, those little apartments, and your in-laws were in town. And and I made it a point to go by and see Laura and Anthony, and Liz and her hung out real tight back then, and still do to this day.
Yeah.
And I got to meet some of your in-laws, and so we're sitting there and we're barbecuing. I think they might have had your old Smoky or whatnot, and having a couple of beers. Jay Vegas, North Carolina, and I don't know if it was your brother-in-law or your father-in-law, but they asked me, what is it that you do in the Marines? I said, well, I'm a sergeant, and I'm a team leader. So what does that entail? Like in combat and stuff? I said, well yeah, but normally 6-man team, 2 Vics, link up with the infantry, and execute the mission, and So what does George do? George does the same thing, like for real, like George, like for them, they just, I guess, because they knew you, from, I guess, when you first started dating Laura, which was,
I was like 14 years old.
Right, so they've known you since you were 14 years old, and here you are now, around that time, either a meritorious staff sergeant or close to becoming one, hooking and jabbing, and they couldn't fathom that's who George had become, that man, and that in a nutshell drives home the point that for a lot of us, our families don't see the complete picture, right?
Yes.
So when I'm talking to my mom, I'm still a baby.
Yep.
I'm 42 years old, but I'm still little Sammy. And a lot of the guys that were the type of individuals that I looked up to, that were big brothers, that took care of me at the boys club, at the school, on the corner, in the alleys, at the block parties, you name it. When I'm home now, I'm not the same Sammy.
Right.
But, and part of that, though, is I think, one of the major components of why, when guys get out and they go home, they fall into this dark place because they're alone. Mm-hmm. And, over the years, I've worked arduously to maintain those bonds and those relationships, but it becomes more and more difficult over time. And for me, the main link that I had was my father. He would always, call me and give me updates, and this is what's going on. And he was the one that came down and visited us most often. But now I've got to do more. I've got to be more proactive, and I can honestly say, given a fair assessment, I'm not as good at it as I would like to be. And if there was, one area where I need to make some gains, that would probably be it. Is to re-engage with the extended family.
Yeah.
But what have you done to maintain contact with the family?
So I'm in a very similar boat. If my family rarely calls me, right? My wife's family, that's my link. So back to what's going on in the back where we grew up, is my wife's family tells her stuff, and then she'll in turn tell me what's going on. My family is very absorbed into what they have going on. I have two sisters, an older and a younger.
Right.
And they have kids, great kids, and they have their lives, and they're there. So they're constantly absorbed into that. And unfortunately, months will go by before either I call them or they reach out and call me. So that is also an area where I struggle, and I want to do more. So I'll reach out to my sisters just to talk to them, see how they're doing. But again, it's very rare. And then the times that I do call and actually get through and talk to one of them, it almost feels forced. So that's just something that I have to work on.
What do you mean by it feels forced?
Like it's
like you have to do it?
Like I have to call you or I will never hear from you again. You know what I mean? That's how I feel like. I feel like if I don't call, it's just not going to happen.
So you feel that way, but do you think that's the truth, or it's just your perception?
No, I think it's my perception, I think. Because when I talk to them, they're all very happy to talk to me. And my mom always talks about, it's the time difference for her. I don't know when it's good to call you, when it's not good to call you. And
like, Mom, you can set an alarm.
Yep. And one of the realizations that I had not too long ago was, our lives are going to be filled with something. So what I told my wife is, I would rather my life be filled with my family than noise, right? Because it's going to be filled with something. I will be occupied by TV, radio, the dog, whatever. Our lives will be occupied with what's in front of us here and there. So I think it's important for us to try to fill that time that would have just been noise. Try to fill that time with family. So that's a very recent realization, probably in the past month, because I was at Cobra Gold when I had come to this. And so now I've been calling once a week, but it's only been 2 weeks. So,
right.
So I'm on par. So let's see if it lasts.
If you can make it a routine,
sustain it, yeah.
A habit, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of touching on it, but I want to ask the question directly because it may generate some different thoughts. How do you maintain a balance
between the work and family?
Work, family, spirituality, education, you name it.
So what I try to do, and I will admit I'm not the best at it, because we grew up in the Marine Corps where your wife did not go to your work. Remember that? Like, I rarely ever saw spouses anywhere near our work. Only recently.
I'm trying to think. 08 coming off the MEU, for the homecomings, they were there.
Yes. But
Radio Battalion invited Laura and Liz to the ball while we were deployed.
Yep. And they did a great job. But the average day, I feel like we didn't incorporate the families as much as we try to do now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So overall, the organization has gotten better.
Yes, absolutely.
In that aspect.
Absolutely. So that means I am trying to get better in that aspect because I will focus on mission. Whatever it is, whatever we got to do to get the Marines ready, I will focus on that. But what I've been trying to do is talk to my family about it. I like to get home and try to turn off the things that don't have to get done today. So that's mission and family. Spiritually with my family, I think we incorporate our faith together. We do things together in our faith, and we talk about it, and that helps me. And then I also have my alone time with my faith, But it is busy, and I try to focus on my wife and my kids because there are a lot of times where we're gone and there's no time to focus on them.
Right.
So I try to make the effort to let them know they're important. And I'm human and I'm fallible and I fail at that a lot, but I work on that. I try to. And I think communication. So I think when I talk to Laura about what I'm feeling, she's able to tell me what she needs from me. How can I help her? How can I be more engaged with the kids? And I think if I didn't do that,
right,
I would consistently fail, as a husband and a father. But I think keeping her or keeping communication with her really helps. And then the kids make it easy because they just loved you because you're dad, right? They love me because I'm dad, and I get to tell them about work, and it may be the most boring thing, but to them it's exciting, and it's just our time, right then and there. So
for those that don't know, George and Laura Garcia have 4 of the most beautiful boys on the face of this earth, and I had the distinct pleasure of hosting them at my house for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's close to.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So between the Garcia fire team and the Castro gruesome twosome, I had 6 little Mexican bean sprouts under my roof, and I live in the towers in Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
I can't begin to explain how great of a time that was. But I can honestly say that I am so glad that Liz and I stopped at 2.
Yes.
Because, the dynamics were completely in upheaval. Because Enrique's, 15 at the time, 16 now, definitely in teenager mode, loves his privacy, guards it jealously, stay out of my room kind of thing. But, when we talked about it before Los Garcias showed up, and it was like, hey, look, things are going to be different until, for the time being. And so we managed to work it out. And the only thing, the only casualty that I can think of for over the 2 weeks took place 5 minutes upon arrival. And that was when Xander busted up Vicente's iPad. Vicente was just destroyed. I was like, just relax, it's okay, because I'm thinking to myself, it's it's just a screen, and so I just put it up, and Xander was completely distraught. And I was like, and I didn't want him to start off down that dark path. I was like, listen, buddy, it's okay, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's a material thing. You're fine. You didn't hurt yourself. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's crying. We can move on, and everything was great. But one of the coolest things about the whole trip was when, or that time with us was the rides in the morning. So I took leave, and I didn't mind it at all. It was, for me, it was relaxing, and I will honestly say that it reminded me a lot of the type of things that my dad would do, and in that. He always kept some alley cats around the house. So after my parents' divorce, I was 15. We moved in with my grandparents, my dad, my brother, and I. Unique to Texas, and that era in the early 90s, my dad got custody of my brother and I, and my mom was going to school full time and pursuing her degree, and it just worked out that it was a better fit for us that my dad got custody of us, and my grandparents helped out at least initially, but before too long we were back in Galveston, and my dad got an apartment not too far from his job, so we ended up collecting alley cats, and guys come over that crash, and my dad would kind of lay down the law, like, this is what's expected. You're going to go to school, you're going to get a job, money you save, you keep half of it, keep half your paycheck, the other half goes in a bank account. When you decide it's time to go, you can have that money back, and it was very much in line with that aspect of his personality, and it was a lot of fun. We ended up taking the boys, because your kids trained jiu-jitsu under Ivan Sakamoto, and my boys trained under Flavio da Silva. But Flavio was having a beach bash out here in Okinawa. So I took them with us, and I was like, hey, these are my boys, and jiu-jitsu politics being what they are, But I was like, hey, they're with me. They're all good, and nobody batted an eye. But they had a lot of fun out there, all 6 of them rolling around with all the other kids, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, what prompted you to get the boys into jiu-jitsu?
So I like jiu-jitsu, and I had started here. Actually, I had gotten into ground fighting with Joe Black. He's the first one that showed me what ground fighting was. Joe Black
it's
and
funny.
Eric Buell.
A lot of conversations that I've been having with our crew, like our peer group, a lot of them go back to Joe Black.
Oh man, we'll get into Joe Black, but he is an awesome person.
So who's the other guy? Who's the other guy you mentioned?
Eric Buell.
I don't know Buell.
Yeah, he was from Second, but he left there. I think we were on deployment. He left there prior to you getting there, because he was there, and I didn't know him at Second, but he was there around the time that I was there. When I came back from the MU, he was already gone.
So you met Joe Black where?
I met Joe Black at Fort Meade.
Okay.
And he was also at Second prior. So
I didn't know him when he was at Second.
I didn't either. But so at Fort Meade is where I started grappling with Joe Black and Eric Buell, and it was just a lot of fun. So I came here several years later, and I hadn't really been practicing, and I wanted to do it again. And the kids were doing karate or Shorin-ryu here, and they didn't like it. They wanted to do something else. And so I said, well, why don't we do jiu-jitsu? We can all do it together. And it's our time schedule is very easy here. It's from 4 to 5 for them and 5 to 6:30 for me. So we were hitting back to back. It worked out very nice for us, and it's close to our house. So that's how we got them started. My oldest took to it right away, likes it a lot. And the middle two like it, but you got to force them to get out there.
Right.
It's time for jiu-jitsu, and they're like, oh. But they get there and they're having fun.
Yeah. That's where Vicente's at right now.
Yeah. And then I just started my youngest, Adam, in it now. He's 6 years old. He just started, and he loves it.
So talk to me about his, because I've been holding off to ask you because I wanted to get it on tape for first heard. Talk to me about Adam's first
day.
First day.
Okay, so his first day, he's in class and he's going. I'm a little late when I show up. Right, they had already started about 15 minutes. So I walk in and I see him, and he's in the mount with another little kid, also white belt, but has been there for a little bit. And so they're doing rolls. Mm-hmm. So they're transitioning from being mounted to sweeping them and then going into armbar. So that's what the little boy on the ground is doing. And Adam keeps rolling, and he's just got a smile on his face the whole time. And he'll get back on top, and then he gets rolled again. And then when it was time to switch, they switched and they did the same. Adam would roll him, get on top, but didn't know how to go for the arm bar, so he would just get back down lay down on the ground, so he would go into the mount. So he's having a great time doing that. And at the end, when they're done, they're doing grappling. Now they're doing sparring. It's the last 10 minutes, and Adam's got this big smile the whole time. He doesn't know any techniques, but he knows he's getting in there like the boys are, and he's getting the other kids to the ground. But it's a weird, like a spider monkey move where he just climbs all over and then just falls. So it's
I don't know if that counts as
somewhat
takedown.
effective. Yeah, I don't know. But he's huge smile, and at the end of the class, when he's all done, he comes out and he says, "Dad, I did awesome." I said, "You did, bud. I saw you." And he said, and I didn't even complain like George and Xander. How he went to class and he didn't complain at all.
Good.
He loves it. So right now, my oldest and my youngest are all in. And then the middle two, they're in when they're there. I just got to get them there.
Yeah, we've taken a significant break because of everything from the holidays to the some of the trips that I've been taking, and just things from work just popping up. I haven't been able to get to the mats as often as I like, but that's one of the things that I've explained to Liz and the boys is that jiu-jitsu doesn't have a season. It's something that you start at a fundamental age right now for them, and you take it with you for life. And one of the funniest things that I heard because one of the podcasts that I listen to on a semi-regular basis is the Jocko podcast, when he's talking to his son, and his son asks him if there's such thing as superpowers. He says, "Well, jiu-jitsu is kind of a superpower."
Yeah.
But it comes in degrees, and for me, I found my way to it through a good buddy of mine that's in the DEA, John Koenig, and I mentioned him before in a previous episode. And he really kind of, I think he saw that I was having a rough go at things at the shop, and encouraged me to go out and try it. And the boys, they were the first, I guess, kind of gateway into it. And Vicente it's like, now it's Daddy's turn, because I was there trying to translate between him and the instructor. And, so I just started going, and I love it, because one of the things that it does for me is that it allows me to block everything out. And you're just there in the moment. And the type of dudes or individuals that would train that skill set, I found nothing but positive people. In the instances where you run across those onesies or twosies, they weed themselves out fairly quickly. And that's been the single greatest aspect of it, is that you're around good people and you're engaged in something that's it's almost a search for truth. It's ground truth,
right?
To put a twist on it. Because either the technique works or it doesn't, or you effectively apply it or you don't. And in a lot of ways, it is human chess.
Yes.
And throw your arm out there, just like hanging your rook, or throwing a pawn in a position where it's unprotected, and you lose and you tap and you roll on, but you're always learning,
right?
And so that puzzle solving aspect of it, it becomes very cerebral. And my favorite aspect of it is when you're with a smaller, faster, lighter guy, and he's just so supremely technical, and you're just like, oh, what happened there? And I find myself sometimes kind of cursing myself out, and I was like, pendejo. And sometimes I have to explain, like, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me.
Yes.
I made a mistake there, but you roll with somebody, 2, 3, 4 times, and they kind of know, who you are, and they don't take offense to it. But that's part of the jiu-jitsu that really kind of speaks to me. And it's one of the reasons why, I've enjoyed exposing the boys to that, because I've told them time and again, you're not going to be big men.
Right.
You can't use size and intimidation to work your way out of a bar fight. And there's going to come a time where no matter how you play the situation, it's going to get physical.
Yeah.
And I want you to be prepared for it, because this world can be rough, and Daddy's not always going to be here to help you through those situations. So if I can give you anything, it's an appreciation for the fact that there's always a potential for it to get physical.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you was Lamagna, right? You mentioned him a couple of times. He floated with you
on the 26th meet.
On the 26th meet.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me a story about sparring.
Mm-hmm.
I guess y'all put some gloves on and you let him have it.
So we're just messing around, and I used to box, in my senior year in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had any real bouts, but I'd box. And so when you get good, when you know what you're doing with your hands, and you start to spar with someone who knows what to do, but maybe not as technical, just like we talked about, smaller, a little faster, right? Similar situation. I just knew how to parry and counterattack, and
and he didn't,
as well, So we did that, and I think with him and also with Sean Donahue, their eyes got big quite a couple times when my hand would stop short of their face, and they'd pop back and eyes real big, like, wow, that would have hit me.
So y'all weren't actually sparring, y'all were just...
No, we were just messing around. Just messing around.
Yeah, he made it sound as though you handed him his ass. So now that you're a sergeant major, and I was re-listening to Gunnery Sergeant Sonneben's podcast, which is episode 1, and one of the things that he mentions in there, and I kind of wanted to get your perspective on it, being outside of the intel community, was that we don't do a good job of effectively leveraging our sergeants.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree with that.
And I think back to our time as sergeants, and I mean, you were a vehicle commander, team leader, hooking and jabbing, and the linguist on top of that. Me, I was running at a certain point in time. I was running almost 20, 25 Marines,
and Army, when you had your joint team, almost.
Right? And it was almost a mini OCE, and I was also the LNO to multiple battalions. I don't know if we would do that now.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I think we may be forced to, and those sergeants are going to be expected to execute in a distributed environment without sufficient preparation. But I mean, to be fair, how prepared were we?
Right. I think the first statement that I don't think that we leveraged our NCOs as well is only because, I mean, if you look back, I mean, when I was at First Radio Battalion, we just had a lot of NCOs and not a lot of Lance Corporals and below, because of the time that it took to get through school, because of lat moves, because whatever myriad of reason, we just ended up having more NCOs than normal. And I feel like we relied on the strong ones, and then the other ones were just worker bees. We did try to develop the NCOs because they were NCOs, and we felt strongly about them. But the opportunities to lead, they didn't have as many opportunities as. I mean, I felt like when I was growing up at 2nd Radio Battalion, I felt, you know me, I'm not a loud, boisterous guy, but I did feel hungry for a leadership position. I did want to be proficient, and we did have other NCOs and staff NCOs who set an example. So going to your point now of how prepared were we, I don't feel like I was very overall prepared. I felt like the desire was there, and then when I showed the desire, I had some mentors that would mentor me. I think we do the same thing now. I think we identify those Marines who are going to be in certain positions, and even if it's maybe by virtue of rank. So you're a sergeant, you need to be proficient in these aspects of your career or of your MOS, and we just hold their feet to the fire. Easier said than done because it's a lot of commitment on the part of the NCOs who are senior, who are developing
right,
and on the staff NCOs who should be developing them. And I think what I see more often than not is, people have already been upset with me for saying it, is we get great NCOs, sergeants going, they get promoted to staff sergeant, and they feel they've made it, and I'm just going to sit back and let the NCOs run it, right? I think that's something we have to guard ourselves against. So when we see that...
Who gets mad at you for saying that?
Some of my peers have been upset with me for saying that...
Peers in the 2600 community or peers in the
8999 community? When I said that right now, and I meant no offense to... I said right now, staff sergeants are my problem rank. Meaning what I just told you.
So you're not the first person I've heard say that. And I've been hearing people say that for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's some validity to it. But, I mean, that's a huge jump.
Right. I think
it's a huge jump.
I think what we do now, we see the Marine get promoted to staff sergeant, and we need to realize that, like you said, that it is a huge jump, and we need to apply a little bit more mentorship. And even if that means that they feel that, hey, I wasn't being observed like this as a sergeant, I'm a staff sergeant, and you're observing me like this, only to make sure that they're growing and developing the right habits. Because we do need that staff NCO presence to reverberate off of our NCOs so that they can do the right things, and then their actions reverberate off of the junior Marines. So that's what I look at. So I do think that we don't utilize our sergeants as much, but I think we're going in the right direction, because I think the more I hear, we're trying to do more PME wise, not just enlisted PME, but also just the mentorship that we're trying to do, the leader development that we're trying to bring about. I think we're going in the right way. But it's constant. There's never gonna be one solution that solves it. It's gonna be a consistent effort, always.
Right.
So
how do you fix it? How do you grab that? Sergeant Castro gets promoted to staff sergeant.
Yeah.
What does Sergeant Major Garcia do? You bring me in, you sit me down, you talk to me?
Yes.
Shake the cobwebs loose?
That's exactly what we do. We bring you in, we say, hey, outstanding job.
You say we.
Well, because I try to foster a family unit with COB4. So it's not just me. It's not just, because if it is just me, then I've lost the master sergeant, the first sergeant, the gunnery sergeant, in between. Yeah. So when I get everybody on board, because we're one team, we foster our family atmosphere.
Staff NCO
core. And when I say we, the staff NCO core, it may be me talking to the newly promoted staff sergeant, or maybe the first sergeant talking to the newly promoted staff sergeant, or the master sergeant talking to the newly promoted staff sergeant. But it is we enforcing it. So when we see a staff and CO not doing what they're supposed to, that peer pressure of, hey, you need to be doing these aspects. So what I try to do is talk to the newly promoted staff sergeant, tell them what I expect of staff and COs, tell them what my purpose is, right? Because I'm the sergeant major. I tell them, quite frankly, I'm not your boss, right? I work for the boss of the battalion, right? I'm not your boss. But I am interested in your well-being. I'm interested in your career, and your career is partly my responsibility. And me passing down everything that I've learned in the Marine Corps is also part of my responsibility to that Marine, that newly promoted staff sergeant. So that's what we're trying. When I say we, again, that's what the Staff and CO Corps here of COB4 is trying to do, making sure that we are not letting someone fall. And when I tell the Marines, hey, when I got promoted to sergeant major, I still haven't made it, right? I tell them we haven't made it until you have put in your Appendix J and you're retired. Then you've made it, and you can kick back and say, all the good things or bad things about your career. You made it. You made it to retirement. But until then, we always have to work for somebody, and that somebody is for the Marines, right? These Marines that are coming in.
Okay. So if that's not the biggest jump, what do you think is? Not that you didn't say that. Not that you said that wasn't the biggest jump, but do you think that there's another jump that might be larger than sergeant to staff sergeant?
So I think I don't know if it's the biggest jump, but it's definitely your first jump. Is when you go from lance corporal to corporal, right? Everybody says that. There's truth in that, because you're not caring about much as a lance corporal. I mean, you're caring about your stuff, your mission, your peers. What I mean is, you're not responsible for a whole lot as a lance corporal. The average lance corporal is really not responsible for a whole lot. But they pin on corporal, and now the weight of the NCO is upon them. And I think that jump is big, because a lot of Marines don't realize what it now means to be an NCO, right? They just think, I'm a corporal, I'm an NCO, I can wear my blood stripes, and I have some authority. But it takes a while to learn what that authority is. So I think that's a big jump. I think, I don't know if I could put one above the other. I think the jump from sergeant to staff sergeant is a big jump. And
what about lieutenant to captain?
I think that is... Actually, I think I know a lot of lieutenants who work like mad, just trying to stay afloat, and then they get promoted to captain, and they have not dropped their work ethic. They continue, even though they're still company grade. I do think that is a jump, because they're not field grade level yet, right? But they're expected to be able to command a company with no problems. Because you'll see a lieutenant company commander, and they mostly do fine. But you see a captain company commander, and you think he has to know what's going on because he's captain. So I think even though they're company grade, I do think that is a jump. I think any jump from enlisted to warrant officer, that's another jump. And the reason I say that is because now, as a enlisted Marine, you're operating under one schema, and then you jump to the officer side, and now you have to think about it from an officer's perspective.
Right.
So I think that's a jump. I couldn't tell you which one's the biggest. I think each individual, when they come to that pass, could tell you what they had the most trouble with.
So what's the one that gave you the most trouble?
The most trouble for me, was going from gunnery sergeant to first sergeant only because that was my lat move. I had to learn things that I did not know prior. A lot of admin stuff. I was fortunate. I went to an I&I duty. It was a weapons company. So I was fortunate enough to have a good ops chief. He was a gunny. It taught me about how the infantry battalion worked, what the weapons company did, and how it's employed. So I had that. And then I had a solid admin chief who was able to talk to me about the way the admin world worked and how we get things in on time. So, but for me, that was a big jump because it was my lat move, and no one prepares you for that. You just go into it, and you're supposed to know you're a first sergeant now, right? Frocked or not, you're a first sergeant. You're supposed to act like a first sergeant. So that was the
what do I do with my hands?
Exactly. What do I do with my hands? They're not, the edges aren't sharp enough. So, yeah, for me, that was probably the biggest jump. I felt like going from Lance Corporal to Corporal, because I had that strong desire that I wanted to do well, I wanted to take up a leadership position. I felt like, and I felt like I was mature in that I didn't know everything, and I knew that, and I had good, solid NCOs that were around me that helped me. So that jump for me was good. And then my jump from sergeant to staff sergeant was also good because I went to Fort Meade immediately, and I got pulled into the world of Joe Black, right? So the mentorship, that this is what a staff NCO needs to be like. So those helped me. I'm telling you, the mentorship, when we look out for each other, it really eases that gap, that jump. So,
but you asked for that jump from gunny to first sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
You were dropping Fs from the moment you picked up gunny?
I was, yeah. I was.
Why?
Good question, right? So, first sergeant Huller would be my reason why. The reason I say that, just a very professional Marine, looked out for the Marines, had fun around them, and the turning point for me where I was like, dang, I want to do that for others, is I was a sergeant. We went to Iraq, and I prepared very little for re-enlisting. I knew I wanted to re-enlist, but I'll tell you, at 2nd Marine Battalion, I couldn't tell you who our career planner was at the time.
Parzik?
I can't even tell you what that Marine looks like. No idea. And I got there, and I wanted to re-enlist, and he helped me through the process. Even while we were out at Habbaniyah, and doing it, he kind of walked me through the process. What you got to do, killer? This is what you need to do. Why didn't you do it back there? And yeah, he gave me a hard time for some of it, but he...
Justifiably.
Right, justifiably. But he walked me through it. He taught me what I was supposed to do, and more than that, he taught me what I needed to do with others. So he gave me a glimpse into what that type of leadership was like.
Right.
And that stuck with me. So could I do that in my old MOS? Absolutely. Yeah. We have a lot of leaders in the 2600 field, and I could have done it there too. I just wanted to do it as a first sergeant. And I knew of only two. I knew of First Sergeant Cox, who was a Russian linguist, and a Sergeant Major Ellis, who was also a Russian linguist. Those were the only two that I knew that ever came out of. And the only reason I knew Ellis is because I ran into her. She was the MWSS 172 while we were in Iraq.
There's another, and I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but his wife used to work at the CDC at Camp Lejeune, and it's going to bug me until I can come up with it. But there was one other, and I remember checking out a radio battalion, and I want to say it was Major Armagost, but I could be mistaken. But him telling me that as I was executing orders to go to Goodfellow, that I should consider dropping Fs. But I was like, Sagan's too delicious.
Yes.
and that's what's kept me on the mass art side more than anything, is because I never get bored. There's always something new. You know, I logged in Monday morning, had a great email from some buddies out on the East Coast, and you know, just some of the things that I can do now that as a sergeant I just would have been bitching about. Like, why isn't somebody doing this? Well, now that somebody's me, right? And you know, now, but I still got that Sergeant Castro, you know, deep down in my heart, and he's yelling at top saying, "Why the fuck did it take you so long?" So I always kind of circle back to that voice. But if I had the opportunity, what would Top tell Sergeant Castro? And so I ask you, what would Sergeant Major Garcia tell Sergeant Garcia? If you had, you know, a couple of hours at a smoke pit, maybe in Habbaniyah, Iraq, or someplace like that, just to sit down one-on-one and to go over anything you wanted.
Yeah.
What would it be?
I would tell. I would probably tell Sergeant Major. Me as a Sergeant Major would probably tell me as a sergeant. Probably about the same thing that I tell the sergeants now, and that is that to remember. Because as a sergeant, I never thought about it. I try to take care of Marines in my team, and then do what the mission required. But I would tell him this, and it would be, remember that these Marines that are coming in now are young men and women, 17, 18, 19 years old, and somewhere along the way has put in 17, 18, 19 years of their lives to make this person into the person they are, right? So mom, dad, someone loves this person. And this person, this young Marine, male or female, joined the Marine Corps, and whoever they have back home wants nothing but good for this person, knowing that they joined an inherently dangerous organization. And the Marine Corps has promised that they will do its best to train, prepare, and take care of that individual. And that you as a sergeant, NCOs, staff NCOs, you're the ones keeping the promise for the Marine Corps.
Keep the promise.
Right, keep that promise. And I say that now because at the time, I thought I did what I thought was right, just treating people with human dignity. But now, my son's 14, going to be 15, very close to that age where Marines start joining. And I think, man, I want someone to take care of my kid.
Right.
So I make sure that's what I tell all Marines now. Keep them safe. It's an inherently dangerous organization. Things can happen, whether it's on deployment or just in the shop in general. Keep the promise.
Okay. So, talk to me about the family dynamics, because you mentioned that we've changed as an organization, but how was that changed for the Garcia household? Bringing Laura into the workplace and
Yes,
getting involved with the command climate and family readiness, and I mean, not only is George Garcia all in all the time, now Laura and by extension the boys.
right. So what it has done, I think it has allowed my wife, it's allowed Laura to have buy-in to the unit, right? And when she has buy-in to the unit, now she cares about the unit. And she's always supportive of me.
Right.
But now she's even more supportive. So when, when days go a lot longer than they should have, when deployment goes longer than it should have, she has that buy-in. She's happy that I'm doing my best, and she's doing her best talking to the other spouses. So I think it has made us stronger. Getting the families involved. I think that's what we care about, right? When we're deployed, we do care about the mission, but if we think something's going on with our families, we're almost useless, just because our mind is somewhere else. So getting the families involved and getting their buy-in allows us to operate more effectively when times get hard, whether it be deployments, longer hours, CGRIs, phase modes, whatever. I think that's helped out a lot. And then there's less mystery for the families. So on the other note, when we're deployed, it's hard for us, yeah, but it's easy because we know what's going on. But the families back home who are in the dark, don't see anything but negative on TV, I think for them it's almost harder because they're raising the kids. They're doing everything that we're not, while we're having fun on a deployment wherever it might be. Right.
You're letting the secret out.
Right.
We're not supposed to know that all the deployments are fun.
Right. So
why's he gone again?
Yeah. So
he volunteered for this.
Right. I mean, there are times when it sucks, but there's other times you just get that satisfaction of doing your job in an austere environment. And so I think that having the families more involved really helps out in that aspect. Everybody wins. The Marine gets a little bit better. The family is more informed, and then, and if the family is more informed, and there's a group in the rear to keep the morale up, I think everybody wins. So I think the Marine Corps is going in the right direction with that.
So kind of switching up a little bit, what was your first reaction when I told you that I was doing a podcast?
My first reaction was, I was surprised, just because I've never known anybody, I've never known anybody who's done one, but I wasn't too surprised because I think it's your personality. You reach out to people, and I think this is an extension of that, and in a way we can learn from each other. So I was surprised, but not really. Like it fit. I was like, "Yep, I can see that." So it fit. It fit who I see you as.
So were you kind of reluctant when I asked you to?
Very. I was. I'm not a very open person, right? I like to observe before I commit to anything. I like to take it all in and form my opinions before I talk about things. So yeah, I was a little bit reluctant, but I knew. But it was good to talk to you about it. And when you told me why you're doing it, it made sense to me. And then I felt really good. I felt honored to talk to you. So
I think I mentioned before that John Scoggins and Kevin Simmons were two of the major influences of me starting this project. And before we started recording, you mentioned you had a funny story about the two of them.
yes,
Because they're probably the best of friends. And I had the opportunity to witness firsthand the two of them get into a heated argument to the point that it was making everybody uncomfortable. I couldn't just sit there and just like let them derail the whole productive effort that we were trying to accomplish. So I was like, all right. I get that you guys are having your little lover's quarrel, but let's kind of get back on point here. And they're like, no, let us have our moment, you know, kind of thing. That was mostly Simmons. And then because of all of that, and I don't know, I mean, it has to have been related. It has to be related because that night Simmons ended up having to go to the hospital.
Oh man.
Yeah, and he jokingly said he broke my heart, right? that kind of thing. But yeah, I've already had Simmons on episode 3. That was a tough episode to record because he just spilled his guts.
Yeah.
And came clean in a lot of ways about some of his shortcomings, and in a very revealing fashion. And I plan on getting Scoggins at some point. But please share with us your observations about the two of them and what transpired.
Okay, so I was we had gone to Company B, Fort Meade, and it was after a staff NCO PT, because we would do those staff NCOs PT
just the staff
NCOs, and after we all change over, but we're our little it was in the barracks, but there was a room on the floor that was for the brown baggers,
right?
And you can shower, change over, or you can go to the gym. The shower was just a little normal, just a little shower unit. It was a head, a sink, and then to the right of that was the shower. So it was only for one person. So we'd take turns through there. And John, I want to say he flipped Simmons' jump wings upside down on his blouse.
He's so proud of those jump wings.
And so Simmons was done showering. He showered up. He's getting dressed now. He's putting his blouse on. He looks at his blouse. What the hell? He looks. He sees it's upside down, and knows instantly that it was Scoggins. So he's pissed. He flips him back up, and he's bitching the whole time about, "You don't touch my jump wings, right?" And so he's like, "I'm gonna get him back." He grabs John's spit bottle that was right there, right by his bag, and he grabs it. He walks into the head, and then all you hear is John say something like, "Hey, what's up, baby?" Something like that, and then just a scream as Simmons is dumping the spitter all over it, and he comes out and Kevin's laughing. John rinses off, but he's laughing too, and once he comes out, he's like, "It's fucked up, man. You don't do that." So that shows you how, they were like brothers. They still are. I mean, they fight, but it's all in good fun. At the end of the day, they still love each other. It's a great bond, and it's cool to see in person.
So he mentioned this. I don't know if you know this, but they were planning to get married so they could get a sign together.
I didn't know they were really doing it. They did talk to him. They did say stuff like that.
They had formulated this whole plan. I guess because Scoggins wasn't married or at the time. I don't know his personal life history. I just know that he's married now. Mm-hmm. And then Simmons had just gone through a divorce from Ruth, and they were spitballing with the idea, or playing with the idea, Simmons Scoggins Simmons, and
hyphenate.
Yeah. And 6-point font.
Yeah,
so many letters on the same name tape. But yeah, the two of them were characters, and we had that opportunity to drive down to San Antonio together from that working group in San Angelo, and I took them down, to show them Texas the right way, and San Antonio is home to me, so it's a second or third home depending on how you view it. And I went to college there, and so I've got a network, and one of our close friends, they were actually closer to Liz. They opened up a restaurant down there called Southerly. It's a brewery / restaurant, and so they brew their own beer. And so we went down there and we just, lived it up. And my mom drove up to meet us, and we got a hotel room at the Emily Morgan right there across the street from the Alamo. And so it was funny because I'd made reservations for the three of us, thinking that my mom was going to make her own reservation. So when we showed up, we only had 3 rooms, and so I put my mom in one. I had another,
and John and and Kevin shared a room. So they posted pictures of themselves up on Instagram. They're in their bathrobes and doing their thing. It was an interesting time with the two of those guys. And to be fair, I didn't really know them very well up until, I guess, I met Kevin at their McCree in 2017, beginning of 2017, and it was my first real time getting to know Scoggins. But this gun club being what it is, it doesn't take much to break the ice, and so and so, you work with so and so, and once you kind of sniff each other's butt, so to speak, it all kind of works out in the end. But now, I mean, especially with this whole podcast thing, John and Kevin have been very supportive in providing me criticism and feedback, and you know what you need to do, and what about this, and you think about that. But the funniest part is, Kevin isn't unique in this, but he's probably the worst offender. Is constantly asking, like, "What are my stats? How many downloads do I list?" So that ego aspect comes into play. Yeah. And it's funny because I was having lunch yesterday. Young lieutenant that works in the PAO there at the MEF, and I walked in, and for a lot of reasons, I'm having to kind of circle back and do things the right way, because I just threw out 5 episodes, and I started getting some kind of indications and warnings, like, hey, you need to check into this, check on that, check on this. So I ran through SJA, ran through SSO, ran through PAO. But when I was in the PAO shop, I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel that works in there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just shoot me an email, top, and we'll take a look at it." But then this young lieutenant kind of caught me at the barbershop. At the MEF, we got a barbershop there inside the headquarters building, because we sit close to the CG and whatnot. But I was in the barbershop waiting for my turn, and this LT had just finished up, and he's like, "Hey, Master Sergeant, you were the guy talking about the podcast." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You mind telling me what it is so I can check it out?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And so I see him yesterday, and he says, "Top, I love it. I love it." And he's like, I just, what gave you the idea for that? We got to talking about it, and so yeah, I said, I don't want to keep you. He said, I'm just going to get chow. And I said, well, so am I. He's like, let's go grab a bite. So we went and we talked, and in that conversation, he starts saying things that I find myself guilty of often, and I heard this at the advanced course. One of the master guns that was there talking to us, he's like, when you find yourself in a situation, extract your ego. Extract your ego. And, so either at work, at home with the wife, on the mats with the boys, extract your ego. So what? You got tapped. What'd you do wrong? What can you do better? With Liz, it's not about winning. She's won. She's got me. Yep. Right? Yep. So, if we're having a disagreement, or an argument, or a fight, or full-on global conflict, right? Because we can sometimes get to that level. We're trying to resolve a situation, and it's not about who wins. It's about fixing the problem and moving forward. Yeah. But at work, it can be tough. So what do you do to extract your ego from the situation, and how do you kind of hit that sweet spot with regard to intense aggression? Yeah, because I've seen that side of you once or twice, and we'll go back to that. But I don't see that in you any longer. Right. So have you gotten better at I think yes. Containing it?
Yes, I have learned that that I'm not always right, and one that the way I would do things is not the only way. And then I've learned that, especially, and that's one of the benefits about being an 89-99, right? Because I'm not operationally in love with anything. You know what I mean? I think
if there was ever a case for why we need to be recording the video for this, your facial expression right now is, I'm not operationally in love with anything.
Right? So I get to hear an operation because I think it's important to be involved.
Right.
So that, because if I'm providing advice to my commander, I need to know what's going on. But I can be that person who just pokes a hole here and there, or asks a question that may be a dumb question to all the smart people at the table who know, and I just don't. And so I think that's the benefit. That's what I've learned a lot about is what can I do? What's the mission, and how can I play my role to best support the mission?
Okay.
And if that's making sure family care plans are done, or making sure that the companies are doing their family care plans, right, then that's part of it. If it's making sure the Marines got licenses, am I going to license anybody? No. But I can talk to the right people who are going to. So I think that's been helpful for me to learn that it's not just my way, that there are many smart people, and we'll come to a good solution when we all identify what the problem is, and then we identify our best ways to attack it and move past it.
So probably for me, the single greatest challenge I have right now is extracting my ego when it comes to my oldest. He's 16, and he's got man, he's too much his father's son, George.
Yeah,
man. But I think we're at a good place now, and Liz is constantly having to remind me, hey, calmate.
yeah,
You know, that's your baby boy right there.
yep,
You know,
yeah,
it's not this 16-year-old mutant that you know is now shaving and everything else that comes with those teenage years. And I remember being 16 and bucking up to my father, and the look in his eye frightened me because I didn't know how it was going to play out. And I was just, you know, after I just reacted and I emotionally just, you know, puffed up, and he didn't kill me, fortunately. But that's one of the benefits of getting onto the mats with the boys is because we kind of get that out. Mm-hmm. Flavio's had to tell me, hey, you don't roll with Enrique. Let Enrique roll with the other adults, because you know he's been rolling with adults for several years now,
right?
And he holds his own, and you know that's one of the moments in which you know I like to just kind of sit back and watch. And, you know he's grappling with some Sergeant Gladiator out from Hanson that just eats, sleeps, lifts, you know, rinse, wash, repeat, and Enrique's handling him.
Yeah.
And you know, or they'll stop mid roll and Enrique will show him, hey, this is where, you know, like, hey, you're not the teacher, get back to rolling, you know, that kind of thing. But he's, you know, he's a good training partner.
Yeah.
And you know, and I get the Marines or the other guys that train jits with us, they'll come up and tell me, man, I love rolling with your boy. He's going to be something if he sticks with it. And you know, my thing is, I don't want him to be a world-class jiu-jitsu player,
Right.
Practitioner. I just want him to have the tools necessary to continue on without me.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes be hard. But
Yeah, that's a good making them self-sufficient.
establish that independence,
Young man,
and they can, you know, because the world can be cruel, right?
Right.
But I was kind of approaching something with regard to extract your ego and containing your anger. There was an instance in Iraq when you were still part of my team, and
Yes.
you started to lose it.
Yes.
Would you care to share?
Yes. So I'm big on just do what you need to do, right?
Right.
Always been big on that. And one of the instances where I just couldn't be the nice me anymore was one of the analysts. He was in the Army. We had to send a report out. So I talked to one of the other analysts there. Hey, this needs to go up. Good to go. So I go outside and I look for the Marine who's on duty, or the soldier who was on duty. It was his job at the time. Hey, you need to send this report out. And he looked at me and said, okay, I'll get to it. And I'm not used to that. You know what I mean? And in the Marine Corps, I need you to do this means get up and do it right now. And he looked at me like, who are you? I'll show you who I am real quick, is what went through my mind. No, you get up, you do it now. I don't remember all the words that were said, but I do remember that that night it was going to go down, and I'll be damned if anybody pulled me off.
So for some clarification, when you told him forcefully that he was going to go do it right then and there, he looked over you at me, because I was the team lead at the time, to see how I was going to react to it. And at that point in time, me and Thorne were sitting there. I don't know if we were smoking cigars or smoking cigarettes.
Yes.
But we were sitting there in lawn chairs and watching the situation unfold. And I looked at Thorne. He looked at me. We stood up. We grabbed our chairs. And we backed him up about maybe 3 or 4 feet. He sat right back down.
Yes.
It didn't take much longer after that for the young soldier to go send the report.
Yeah.
But it kind of speaks to the level of trust and I guess confidence that the chain of command had in us, right? Because we just a bunch of knuckleheads, and honestly, I was told subsequent to that deployment that they had some reservations about me being the senior guy there. Because they could only imagine it was like some Lord of the Flies shit. Mm-hmm. And we always had the potential, and occasionally some Lord of the Flies shit took place. But for the most part, we held it down. And for me, I learned quite a bit. And one of the things that I learned that I haven't really shared with too many people, but I was so wrapped up in the day-to-day rhythm as the liaison officer and the TL and just the senior guy there, even though there was an Army staff sergeant.
Right. I was just going to remind you about the absent staff sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they had staff sergeants on deck, but they weren't running the show, and it was clear to everyone that it was my house. But I was in the rhythm, constantly, ripping and running, and we had dudes coming in and out of the ADAC, and we'd go flip over to TQ to pick them up and whatnot. And someone asked me a question about the actual mechanics and buttonology of the system that we were operating, and I just kind of dismissed it, and as though it was somehow beneath me at that point in time. And Stock snapped me back, and he got frustrated with the answer that I gave him. He's like, "Yeah, you got all that other shit to worry about, but this is important too, Sammy." And And I had the wherewithal to say, you know what, you're right. And I sat down and we figured the system. We troubleshot the situation, and we got it done. Mm-hmm. And it kind of speaks to that professional paranoia that has helped me in a lot of ways. That I don't know if we communicate it to our NCOs that it's healthy, that it's okay if you don't know everything, but you can damn well try and learn. Mm-hmm. And if you got a Lance Corporal that understands that gear or that equipment better than you, good on you. But you should learn it too. Mm-hmm. Because it's not beneath you, and at some point in time, y'all's safety or the safety of others may depend upon your ability to utilize that equipment. And Stock was spot on in kind of snapping me back into that aspect of the operations, because I had fallen away from that. Mm-hmm. Because I had some shit hot dudes. I had guys like Ludwin and him and others that they could work that equipment without me. But when it was down, that was a priority of work, and I need to adjust my focus onto that until it was rectified, and then I can go back to the regular day-to-day business.
Yeah.
But it kind of brings me back is that we don't know that stuff until we either learn it ourselves or someone teaches it to us from their own personal experiences. So, at what point in time did you actively start hunting mentors?
And did you ever approach it like in a systematic fashion, So I got this guy, I got that guy that I can go to, and then by extension, have you started teaching your subordinates to do that very same thing?
So I never went about it systematically, because at first I was just groping, like I didn't know.
Groping?
Because I knew I didn't know everything.
You made it sound creepy. Almost rapey.
Just trying to get the knowledge,
Right.
It was at Fort Meade, so it was after Radio Battalion, because I got promoted. We came back and I punched out.
So no one, maybe outside First Sergeant Holder, sitting down with you and working on your realm.
Right. I would say, there were others. So, believe it, Gunny Smith at the time, right? So Mike Smith, when we were in HIT, we were trying to get a convoy going, and the guy who was sitting in the seat, I can't remember that Marine's name, didn't know how to fill the radio. Right?
Ooh.
So
say it ain't so.
Yeah.
For shame.
So, that's right. So I came over, I filled it for him, and then I checked the other vehicles to make sure they were good to go. And then Gunny Smith, I remember him telling me that, hey, that's good to go. I don't remember the exact words, but something to the effect of, hey, I didn't know how to fill that because the gear had changed. The gear changes all the time. So awesome that you know how to do that. When you get to be where I'm at, you'll see that things change on you. You gotta ask. So it's pretty good. I took that. I didn't look at it at the time as looking for a mentor. I just tried to take that. Oh, he learned from that. I'm going to try to learn from that. We had First Sergeant Holder doing everything that he did for us. We had Gunnery Sergeant Hillier, Master Sergeant Hillier now, I guess he's retired, who just taught the SIGINT way. Who else? I learned a lot from Barda, right, from the Muse. Right. And again, all my stuff at 2nd Radio Battalion, that was all, what can I take from you that's going to make me better? And for the Marines that I saw that didn't do well. What can I not do in the future?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But there wasn't any.
No bandanas on your head.
Right. No bandanas on my head. Yeah, definitely no bandanas. But there was no systematic approach
Too
to
soon.
it. Right. Trying to think of the other. There's another Marine that.
But like a cognizant or a conscious decision to say, that dude has his shit together, and I'm gonna approach him and
Right.
just like a vampire, suck and dry from everything that I can get in order to be
Right.
to be a stronger leader.
That didn't happen until I got to Company B.
Okay.
And so that, I mean, like I said, at Second Raven Battalion, there was a lot of great examples, and I tried to take as much as I could, but there was never a thought of, let me fix the way my persona is. I was just thinking, oh, I can do this, or I can do that. Never a perspective change. That didn't happen until I met Joe Black. And the way he was just so proficient about our craft, and the way he could explain it, and the way he briefed it, I remember thinking, man, this guy knows our craft. And so how can I learn my craft like that? And I would talk to him. I talked to him, like I said, I ended up grappling with him in the mornings. And just to be...
How good is he?
He's very good.
Compare him to what you know now.
I don't know. It's not a fair comparison.
Right.
Because I knew nothing.
Right.
And I just remember being frustrated because he would tell me, oh, you did this, now I'm going to do this. And I'm going to get you an armbar here. And no matter what I try to do, it ended up happening.
Right.
Just as he said it. So,
But having rolled with black belts and brown belts.
right. I think he was still, even now, I still think he was good.
Yeah.
Like, even rolling against brown and black belts, I think we never went into a mode where it was just straight competition. It was consistent.
You're talking now about Micmac black belts.
No, I'm talking about jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was grappling with Joe Black, it was never a pure competition where I'm going to win or you're going to win.
Right.
It was always development.
Just training.
Yep. It was always
training.
development.
Yeah.
Training. And then that bled over to our professional side too. So I talked to him about, hey, I got put in as the platoon commander when I got there. There was not enough officers, so I took over a platoon. And then Captain Sua was the platoon commander later, and then he left. But I ended up going to leadership position, and I just needed some assistance with how that beast worked.
Right.
Because it was different. It was different from Radio Battalion.
Yeah.
So,
To say the least.
right. So I talked to him. I talked to Owen Schultz. I talked to as many people who I could there. Tom Boyd, John Scoggins, when he got there. And it helped me develop who I was as a staff NCO. I think there is where I developed how to be a staff NCO. And like I said, that was a jump for me, right? From sergeant to staff sergeant.
Right.
And I got lucky
Yeah.
in that the staff NCOs that were there were a unit. I mean, we PT'd together. We did things together. Even though our schedules, as soon as the day started, would go to the winds, we still maintained time to do things together. And that was very helpful for me.
I can only imagine. So you mentioned the phrase "fix your persona."
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
So, well, not persona, but as far as perspective. When I was, at Second Raven Battalion, again, it was, how can I do better? How can I do better? It was all me. How can I do this better? It wasn't until I got there where it was, how can I do better for you?
Right.
These Marines. How can I make your situation better? And And that's the switch for me. That was when now I need to reach out, because there are so many that can do it better than I can, to make these situations where weren't great, missions that we didn't want to do, make it appetizing. How do we do this?
So the letter companies can be a tough nut to crack for staff and COs. And for me, I didn't get to a letter company until I was almost 13, 14 years in. And I finally showed up, Company H, San Antonio. And I walked in and interviewed for probably what will be remembered by me, at least, as one of the best billets, one of the most challenging assignments, but definitely one of the most rewarding, at least up to that point in time. And we had about 100 personnel, 24/7 ops. And the way that they had the schedules staggered, it was only on Wednesdays at noon, at changeover about time frame, that we had all hands on deck. And when I checked in, I got the sense from some of the NCOs. I've got all shapes and colors and walks of life. From reservists to contractors, Air Force, Army National Guard, you name it. And one of the young Air Force Staff Sergeants, which is an E5, it's a neat trick that they play, right? Says to me that the workforce that we had didn't really trust their leadership. They felt like they were just, cogs in a machine. And so one of the things that I implemented in order to change that was to have an all hands formation, for lack of a better term, there on the watch floor. And it was right around Red Ribbon Week, and one of the law enforcement LNOs that was there asked if he could speak to the group, because I told him that I was going to have all hands, and he was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah," because there weren't many gunnies on the watch floor like that, and but force of presence being sometimes necessary. Scream at the top of my lungs there on the watch floor where they're not used to hearing it.
Right.
Bring it in. And so they all come in, and my voice carrying as it can sometimes. There were people who weren't necessarily required to be there, but started showing up. So I've got this big crowd, and and I don't normally draft what I'm going to say. I just I make some mental notes, and these are things I'm going to touch on, and I just told them, I said, look, for those of you who have not met me, I'm Gunnery Sergeant Castro, and I'm not a gunny. I'm not the gunny. I'm your gunny. And if you've never had a gunny working for you before, you have one now. And that means that I am supremely interested in all things about each and every one of you. And it's going to take me some time to make the rounds and to learn who each of you are. But just know that my position exists to serve you and to advocate and champion your efforts here. We have a mission to do, and it's an important one. But know in your heart that I am also interested in each and every one of you. And I didn't realize it then, but that small, point in time and space resonated with those young individuals, and later the LELNO tell me, man, I was so fired up. He's a former Marine. He's like, man, I sometimes miss the gun club, but I don't think I've ever missed it as much as I was missing it right then and there. I was ready to just like hit somebody.
Nice.
And but all of that goes back to our time at Radio Battalion, and knowing that I had strong staff and COs taking care of me, and wanting to extend that coverage
Right.
to the other forces, just because of the fact that we're in the same fighting hole. And in our time in Iraq, we had those soldiers with us. We didn't always get along,
Right.
but they were part of our team.
They were.
And
we met mission. We were good.
yeah. But let me ask you, what was, in the course of, now we're approaching 19, right? And those who don't remember, or I don't think we even stated that you and I were in boot camp together.
Oh, no. We did. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we're approaching our 19-year mark. What's been the most challenging assignment for George Garcia?
The most challenging. I think probably the most challenging for me would have been man, that's a good question. Most challenging personally would probably be when I was assigned to 1st Radio Battalion.
I was gonna ask you if that was the case.
Yeah, and we were gone. I was gone for my 2nd year-long deployment, right? And that was most challenging for me because I already had 3 of my kids. 3 of my 4 were already with me, and it just felt. We had a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff to keep me busy, but so much happens in a year, that you miss out on.
Yeah.
My grandmother had passed away during that deployment, close to the end, and I was very close with her. It was rough in that regard, and so personally, that was probably my most challenging.
And it was right around that time that you had told me that you were going to leave the Occ Field.
Right. Yep.
I was so heartbroken.
Yep. That what
you're one of my few man crushes, and when you told me that, I was like, well, you motherfucker! I motherfucked George Garcia because you were leaving the Occ Field.
Yeah.
And part of it was because we came up together, and I felt like you were abandoning ship. And to Kevin Simmons' point, if you see something that's messed up, stick around and fix it. But you had a different plan.
Yep.
But was any of that decision based upon your frustration at first?
Like to leave the Occ Field? So leaving the Occ Field was never. I never thought. To be honest, I never thought I was going to get out of it. I put F because I was wanting to be a first sergeant, but realistically, I was thinking it's not happening.
Right.
So,
but you had made some comments when we talked about it, because we had driven from Texas to California, and we were going to do the whole Disneyland and see family thing, because Liz's brother was down there, if I'm not mistaken, but when you ended up flying out,
Right.
You and the whole family to go home, and we ended up staying at your house. But before you left, you and I had the conversation. You told me that you were frustrated.
Yes.
With the community.
So I was the watch chief there for a whole year. Like we came to country, and I was the night watch, and then at the halfway point, I was the day watch. Me and Tom Boyd, the whole time. And I think my most frustrating thing was the customer service aspect, where we could provide you this, and if you want this, I can provide that, but I need some time. And for other units, the supported units, to just say at the whim of a drop of a hat, oh, you're not supporting, and then people come down on you like you're not supporting. Basically, I had no solid backing from quite a few people in the leadership that were in key spots. So I can't say that everybody in the leadership was jacked up, because that's not the case at all by far. But there were several key billet holders that I could not count on or trust.
That's a frustrating position to be in.
Very frustrating. One of them, I would have been, so I attempted to do MSG duty several times, but while we were out there, I attempted to do MSG duty.
I didn't know that.
Yep. I got out there.
Because you're one of the few sergeants major that I know that don't have a special duty assignment under your belt.
Right, I don't. Not for lack of trying. Right, I left Company B wanting to go to drill instructor duty, and the monitor, Joe Black, said, he said, you're just coming off the internship. I can't release you. And I totally understood. Very frustrated, but I understood what he was talking about.
You got a point.
Right, absolutely. So
we in a pound of flesh.
Right. So where do I go?
In ones and zeros.
Right, exactly. So I go to First Radio, and I enjoyed my time there. I really did. A lot of good people, a lot of good Marines. The mission was good. Even the year-long deployment was a good deployment. It just got frustrated from time to time. But one of the instances that, so I was out there putting in my MSG package, and I got as far as to the interviews. It was on phone interviews. Everything looked good. I had contacted the monitor prior to even submitting, saying, hey, I submitted.
This time it was Crawdaddy, right?
Right. I said, right, it was. I said, hey, I want to submit package for MSG duty. What are the options? What are my chances of getting out of the MOS for a little bit? He said, at the time, I don't see any issue with it. Should be good to go. Put your package in. And I had paid. You got a 3-year payback.
Right.
By the time I would have left Radio Battalion, my 3-year payback would have been 100%. And I told him this. Good to go. Put it in. Not a guarantee. He did say that. Not a guarantee. But go ahead and put it in. Okay. So I put it in. Like I said, we get to the interviews. Everything looks good. When I talk to the guys in the interview, hey, we're going to send this past, and you should be getting your school date soon. All right. So I came back, and was very excited about it. Talked to Tom Boyd, talked to Lieutenant Wood at the time, Nathan Wood, who was an amazing officer. Don't know where he's at right now, but he was great officer.
There's this thing we got called Facebook. It allows you to catch up with people.
I know. And I have an account. I have not accessed it in years. Yeah. But I was talking to them about it. Very excited. Somebody else walks past, and I won't mention the name. Walks past. You can't do that. You have payback. I said, I can. My payback will be complete. I already talked to the mom. Okay. So that goes by. A couple of days later, same individual walks past me and says, by the way, you didn't get the MSG thing. I said, what? No way. I'm calling the monitor myself. So I call him. And he says, okay, I saw your package. I reviewed it. I can't let you out of the MOS for these reasons. And they were all the same reasons that other person had told me. So I kind of put two and two together.
Yeah.
Someone made a call, and I'm not going now. So the funny thing is, for me, talking to the MSG recruiting team, where I'm talking to them, the interview, they said, "Hey, you're pretty senior gunny, so if you're putting Fs, you can't put Fs on your fit rep. You have to put M." I said, "Okay, I'm totally willing to do that." So I was going to put M, right, on my from FD fit rep, right? It would have been an M. Coming back, I put F on my FD fit rep, and that's the fit rep for me. That's the last fit rep before the board. So I ended up becoming a first arm. So that was just one instance of somebody who I felt like somebody backstabbed me. There were other instances on the deployment where I felt like leadership wasn't there where it needed to be. And so now I tried to look out for those spots for other Marines. Good. I tried to identify those times when I think a Marine is getting screwed over, and then I try to combat that.
So what are you reading?
So what am I reading?
Yeah.
So I just finished This Kind of War, and then General Andrew Jackson and the Miracle of New Orleans. I finished those two books.
Talk to me about This Kind of War.
This Kind of War?
Yeah.
So This Kind of War was talks about the Korean conflict, right?
Right.
Korean War.
And the author is
T.R.
Fehrenbach.
Yep. So what I liked about that is it really made me think about readiness. And
are we ready?
And are we ready? Yeah.
Are we ready?
And are we ready? And I think, are we ready? Sure. We'll get there. I think, but that needs to be, but like it says in the book, in there, it talks about how American service members, America's Army or fighting men are the fastest to learn, meaning that they're getting wasted. And then they're the fastest to learn from their mistakes and come back stronger, right? I think, are we ready so that when we get into any kind of conflict, I don't want our Marines to die needlessly. I want them to be prepared. I want them to learn the mistakes before they even got there.
We shouldn't have to lose to learn.
Exactly. And that really put that out, brought that out for me, readiness.
You know that Fehrenbach was the former head of the Texas Historical Commission?
I did not know that.
Yeah. I don't know if he's a Texan or not, but he there's a great quote of his that really kind of speaks to what makes this gun club unique. A nation that is not prepared for all the forms of war should then renounce the use of war in national policy. A people that is not prepared to fight should then be morally prepared to surrender. Mm-hmm. To fail to prepare soldiers and citizens for limited, bloody ground action and then to engage in it is folly verging on the criminal. Mm-hmm. Man, you know, and sitting out here in the Pacific, when you read a book like that, it kind of brings things back into focus.
Yep.
Are we ready?
Absolutely, yeah.
Are we ready?
And I think, that is such a fluid concept because you can be ready today, but if you don't perform your basic maintenance on whatever, maybe you're not ready tomorrow, right? Just like as a person preparing, preparing their body for any of the rigors of whatever. We'll say a PFT, right? Even though we should never prepare for a PFT. I believe that.
I believe that too.
But I will use this for example. So, say someone's preparing, trying to get the best score they can on their PFT. They get it. And then a week goes by. Maybe they didn't do exactly what they were sticking up to that same PT regimen. And now, this next week, would they run that same score? Maybe it would drop a little bit. So it's such a fluid concept. I think we have to tell ourselves, tell our Marines, and believe that we have to continuously mind the little things that we think don't matter. Medical readiness, perform maintenance on your gear and your equipment, weapons cleaning, all that. I think, and then mentally preparing ourselves for a fight. Knowing that if we do go to Korea, that not everybody's going to come back. But not accepting that. Not saying, yeah, we go to Korea.
Or anywhere.
Or anywhere. Not accepting that as, yeah, if we go, someone's going to die. Or someone might not come back. Or might not come back the same. We should be preparing to try to bring everybody back. Understanding that this is real world and there may be losses. But doing everything we can to make sure that we're ready. And this will go back to Joe Black. This was something that he told me. He said, be a man of faith, right? In whatever.
Yeah.
Because a man of faith will believe in something that is greater than themselves, and then when stuff gets bad, they won't crumble on themselves. They'll believe in something greater. So whatever your faith is, be a man of faith. And then he said, train your Marines, because no one's going to thank you if they don't come back. No one's going to say, hey, thanks for giving my Marine time off before your deployment, but they didn't make it back. No one's going to say that. They're only going to thank you for bringing back your Marine safe. So train your Marine with tough, realistic training. And so, that's what I've been trying to take to the Marines. Do things that are going to make sense. If it contributes to saving lives or taking lives, continue that practice. If it doesn't, cut it out. You don't need it.
So that way you don't have to give them, or they don't have to give a negative response when you ask them, are we ready?
Right. Because I think we are ready. I think we are ready. But can we be more prepared? Absolutely.
And with that, we're out.
Yeah, so I can feel I'm getting better at it. Just kind of like when you're rolling, right? So when you're like, okay, well, I know how to do a sweep now, right? When a guy's got this, that, or the other, and you trap the arm and lock the leg, and UPA and all that. But like for Sonny, for episode 1, I was
Like I'm listening to this is about my fourth or fifth time listening to Sonny's podcast. It's 3 fucking hours, but there's so much fucking good in there, and not all of it comes from him. Some of it is from me too, but this is my way of saying, hey pendejo, pay attention. You said these things, now you got to fucking live up to it.
Yeah.
But also just in the dialogue, and like you said just now, you don't know if you could share as much with someone else, and for that, I thank you, but it's also because we've got a history. We were in fucking boot camp together.
Right.
We were in MCT together. We were at DLI together. We were on the same fucking SST for.
We took the same cab from Monterey Airport to DLI.
Right.
I will never forget that. I will tell you right now, I will never forget that. We got into our rooms.
Me, you, Esparza,
Yep.
Peterson, Boris.
Yeah, Boris. And it was probably one of the best times. When I tell you I was a young guy, didn't know anything, and you were like, you knew the ways of the world. That's how I saw you, man. I mean, you gave me a lot of mentorship, and just opened up my mind to a lot of things.
Like what?
Just so I graduated high school, and I had just a couple of months, and then I went to boot camp. Right, I came from, my mom was there, my dad was there.
So had you ever used the cab before?
They were no. They were very present in my lives. You know what I mean?
Had you ever flown when I know you flew to Cali, but to catch a flight from
No. Yeah, so we flew to Cali, but I'd never flown outside the
right.
We were,
Off the rails, right? Because
Right.
we were kind of, there was only a small group of us
right
going from MCT to Monterey.
to Monterey, yeah. So that was new to me.
And we traveled like a pack.
Yep,
I remember
we sure
that.
did. And I was a total boot.
Well, we all were.
Hair and everything. Yeah. And then, yeah, we got there. We talked about, what are we going to do for the test? How this is going to go down. And it was just comforting to talk to you about it. And then we walked down Alvarado Street. Walked to the little bookstore.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was very cool. And I always remember you for that.
Remember first drinking whiskey with me?
I do. Yes, it was. I think it was Chivas. It was Chivas. And
so Laura told Liz, and this is in the outtakes, this won't be released. Laura told Liz that you attacked her that night.
Yeah, it's true story.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, I think this is this would be probably one of my favorite episodes. But I feel like I'm getting better at it, and I can kind of set
guide,
things up and then kind of guide back in, and I kind of want to. One of the key things that I've learned, and this is from my time as a O2 11, is a quid pro quo.
Right.
Not that I'm a fucking formal schoolhouse trained O2 11, but I did OJT, and I did learn from some really sharp agency dudes that took a special interest in me, and we kind of did some extra prac apps on the side, and they gave me some additional assignments, and they worked with me to kind of refine just the baseline that everybody was getting, and when I share with you some of the shit that I've got banging around in my head that some would consider to be baggage, you feel empowered to share. And at a certain point in time, you forget about the headphones and the fact that there's a big fucking mic sitting in front of you, and the conscious fact that we're recording this and for what purpose. It kind of allows the guest to kind of let the guard down, and that's where we start getting into the real nitty gritty, the marrow, right?
Yeah.
And there's some good shit in here, George. I'm looking forward to chopping the audio and